Hey friends, today's video is a Strand Hunter guide. I'm doing a live commentary of this. This is my main class as of late, mostly because of the unflinching, but the movement and skill ceiling of the overall kit, interacting with your entire team, is worth mastering. And the big aspect you're always going to select is Widow Silk. So not only do you get an additional grenade charge, a second grapple, you create grapple points, or the grapple tangle as it says there on the description. Note that if you were to go triple jump, use a grapple, the grapple would only refund one of the two jumps. Whereas with strafe jump, it always refunds the full strafe jump. So my advice to get used to this class is to load up a private mayhem match so you can have abilities recharging and just fly around, pay attention to what works, what doesn't work. I'm going to go through it itemized today, but just know that you can learn this on your own. So I set it for 30 minutes. Super recharge 3 seconds, and it's going to load up on Altar of Flame. While it's loading, let me show you what you're trying to achieve here. I call this the grapple opening routes, and you should discuss this with your team if you're playing multiple Strand Hunters, since they can all share grapple points. So right off the rip here, let's go with the red opening route. You see I'm going to use a half grapple, look at the charge on the bottom left, then commit to it. Takes me up above, use the shoulder charge ability, and start climbing. So it's worth mentioning that my teammates can use this grapple point, this one right here, to go anywhere they want. They can use that to swing right and set up on the disc area. You don't always have to go out of bounds like this, but this is just showing you the skill ceiling and maybe some balance oversights of Strand Hunter. Now we see what a blue route looks like. And you can be creative with this. On this one, I used 2 half grapples. TJ Henry Yoshi. So there's another half. My teammates can use that. I can use it. Surprisingly, you don't actually have to grapple to get up there. You can just ability jump. Grapple's still a little bit faster if you commit to the full charge. So basics is, this is your neutral jump. Now I'm going to add an ability jump. You can hold down the jump button to jump higher. And this works for both your neutral jump and your ability jump. And this allows you to navigate places that you otherwise couldn't. The best way I like to say is only jump as much as it keeps your character in cover. Because like if I jump really high here, I might get sniped, right? Whereas if I just tap jump, they might not take my head off. So on the flip side, if you want to do some out of bounds mechanics, you can hold the jump and then hold the ability jump to get onto out of bounds. As well as you need to time the vector of your strafe jump to get into some out of bounds because of false ceilings. I don't think that's going to hit. So that's a false ceiling. Now let's do it correctly. That's going to be good. Same thing here. And so there you go. That's just practice. Any map has out of bounds map exploits like that, oversights, that you can practice over and over again. If you notice that I normally play triple jump, that's because triple jump allows you to do what they call in Smash Bros. Melee a plank, which means you jump off, stay in cover, jump on. Some maps have kill barriers that are really low, for example, so you can't really plank there. But that is why I utilize triple jump. I just said that the grapple does not refund both, so I'm going to show you this. 1 jump used, 2 ability jumps used, now I grapple, and it only refunds 1. See, here they're clicking. That's how you know. So you might as well just use strafe jump, is really all I'm going to say. It's a higher skill jump anyway, because you're able to use the left stick, or WASD, to influence the direction of where it goes. Very helpful for avoiding shotgunners, but its velocity is not fast enough, even with stompies, to avoid double melees. The only thing that gets you out of double melee is stompy high jump. Otherwise, you're just rolling the dice on connection. You're still rolling the dice on connection, but whatever. So next thing to mention, half grapple. Double tap the grapple button, or you can double tap your ghost. If you, for some reason, can't hit the timing precisely on the left bumper. And both you and your teammates can use these grapple tangles, these grapple points, to do whatever you want with them. So, for example, I'm going to ride this out and use the shoulder charge off the grapple to redirect my movement. Note that on controller or mouse and keyboard, you have to look at the direction you are shoulder charging. If you ability jump or swap weapons, you can cancel out of the grapple. Some players do all three. I've played this class so much, I just use all forms of breaking the grapple. Sometimes you don't want to break a grapple, though. You can use your vision to maintain a swing, and that's very useful for example, let's say a Missile Titan pops. Let's pop this. Go in a circle until the Missile Titan's gone. When you see it get close to you, just shoulder charge a different direction, jump up real high, and if you have Ensnaring Slam, you can go ahead and use that too. Here is a live example where I'm avoiding a Hammer Titan. Go in a big circle with the grapple, shoulder charge to dodge a hammer, use the drift of the super to dodge another as he comes out of super, get a double, fly forward, light attack, get a kill. Then the most important thing is I set 3 grapple points, since in the super gives you infinite grapples. So now I can use those grapple points, my teams can use this grapple point, all the above. But to be honest, if you had Ensnaring Slam, it works pretty good against missiles. Right now I have Threaded Spectre on, so that drops a clone. And I like the clone because it's radar manip and like a instant barricade. I don't actually agree very much with the balancing scheme of it being an instant barricade, but I just like the radar manip version of it. But when I'm playing the best teams in the world, you have to use the whole kit. So anyway, Ensnaring Slam has a lot of directional influence. So if I hold to the right, it goes to the right. If I hold to the left, it goes to the left in all directions. Note that if you're getting flown at by a Missile Titan, you can just slam in place, it'll catch him on the AoE, and you will cancel him out of the missile super. So if you have one hunter on your team utilizing this, they might not be able to keep track of which hunter has the Ensnaring Slam. Note that in your super, you also get to utilize the Ensnaring Slam, which helps mitigate the weakness of the super. A lot of players would say that this super is weak, but I think that's a user error. That's a piloting issue. You need to spend some time in Mayhem and private matches getting used to it, because it is very, very good. So that being said, I'm going to take Ensnaring Slam off and put back on Threaded Spectre, since I do think it is a higher team skill ceiling. Okay, so the next thing to notice is that when I pop the super, it refunds 2 out of the 3 abilities. It does not refund the Rope Dart. You will think it does because I'm in Mayhem and I'll get it back before the super ends, but it does not give you the Throwing Dart. It does, however, give you both grapples. So what you could do before the super is place 3 grapple points and a clone, then you can pop super. Now you can use any of your grapple points for free, so you can keep staying in the air. You have to use all your charge, or rather, you can use all your charges, but you will not get them back until you land. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to use both my grapples, but then when I land, they get returned to me. So knowing this, and knowing that I do not have Ensnaring Slam, I think the best way to use this super movement-wise is to stay close to the ground. You're basically doing elongated bunny hops, like this, with your super. And you see how that carries momentum? I'm going to do that again. You might notice the super has a little bit of a startup drift. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So it's worth noting that your opponent can see where you're trying to grapple. So sometimes you have to use your light attack to reposition. On the controller, the light attack goes where your left stick is moving. So for example, I'm going to light attack in front and then behind instantly. Whereas on mouse and keyboard, swap into mouse and keyboard now, I have to physically look. See, it's always going to go forward. And then we'll wait for the super to recharge. I'll talk about drift here too. So if I jump into the activation, it's going to throw it really high in the air. Now I'm going to hit one forward and one backward. Now we do it on controller. So back on controller. You can aim any direction, any 360 direction on controller. You don't have to use your right stick to aim at all, although you can. My recommendation is only use one of the two sticks to aim at a time when you're going for the kill shot. Let's talk about drift again. So I'm going to pre-grapple point, drop my clone. That's my habit. I didn't drift there, that's on me. Let's just talk about aiming precisely then, like hitting this power ammo. So if I'm moving to the right and aiming to the right at the same time, the grapple, the light attack is going to go directly right instead of at the power ammo. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you have to touch one stick at a time if you want to precisely hit that heavy ammo. Note that your light attack cannot aim straight down, so you sort of have to be eye level with your opponent. Now let's do the drift. So grapple point. Then I'm going to grapple at my own grapple point, hit the shoulder charge into the super, and it leaps me into the air. That's a false ceiling, by the way, if you're wondering why my character moved like that. So like I said, you use this light attack to reposition. You also have an AoE circular attack that does hit for some very, very weak damage. And then the third attack you have is using the heavy attack again, but in the air, and you gain elevation. I will call this the rodeo. So this is rodeo. Notice I'm gaining height, and you can alternate it with your repositioning tool to maintain height. You're still going to descend downward, but slower. So putting it all together, oh, I guess false ceiling there. Got both my grapples though. Let's try that again. I forgot to mention that the super has a dodge function. Utilize that dodge as soon as you hit the ground, because when you're in that dodge animation, it breaks enemy aim assist, meaning you're more likely to not get sniped in the face. So the final thing I want to mention while in the private match is that sometimes I decide to hide my grapple so that the opponent cannot physically see that I'm grappling except looking on the radar. Because if, for example, I put my grapple down here, they can see where I'm going to it. And really good Strand Hunters will bait you into using abilities and whatnot. So fly at them, they use abilities, and then you can shoulder charge back, especially if you're on mouse and keyboard. I'm going to switch to that right now. So just don't get baited by this. On controller, you have to physically look, so this is where a higher sensitivity is good. But you can definitely still do it. It's just more obvious what you're trying to accomplish to the opponent. So the habit I like to build is alternate between doing both of these techniques. Hide my grapple point, or bait with my grapple point. And if my team's utilizing it, I want my grapple point to be wide out in the open like that. So depending on where my teammates are, they always have a line of sight on this grapple to refresh their woven mail or their thread of ascent, which, by the way, is really, really strong. As soon as you use your grenade ability, it grants bonus handling and airborne effectiveness. Note that the handling also gives you a scalar, and I am very, very salty that my sniper does not have extended mag to make my jump shots that much more consistent. So now that you have a great handle on the basics, you should pay attention to see if the Mayhem playlist is available and hop in there to get used to fighting other supers and going for more ambitious plays with your super just to push your own limits and see what you can succeed on. I will note, for some reason, there are players out there that try their absolute hardest to win in Mayhem. They played the specific Mayhem meta, and I guess I will never understand why, but just note that it's going to be there to impede your practice, since that is something you will never see in the vanilla Crucible. There are not hunters that run around with shards of Galanor. There are not titans that run suppressor with armamentarium. And there are not warlocks running Skull of Dire Hamkara in a Vorpal weapon Deadman's Tale. You might see those sometimes, but like I said, in Mayhem, you will see coordinated groups of player going for wins, which I guess makes sense if they're reputation farming, but sometimes you see solo players doing it too. Other times you see some more fun-centric loadouts, but I just say this as a warning to know that it is going to be hard to get valuable practice reps in some time, but don't let that scare you from keeping your eyes on the prize and trying to force some valuable practice reps even if you lose. Do not care about the outcome, care about whether or not you succeeded doing the ambitious play with your Strand super. Also, while you're in here, you might as well practice sniping supers, especially missiles. Just get used to how much you have to flick, where you have to ADS and hip fire so that you can have the speed to acquire the target, and so on. Anyway, friends, here are some Mayhem highlights. I know it sounds a little weird, but you can see my growth throughout the clips and see the aha moments when I did something cool with the Strand super that I will take back into organized 3v3 against good opponents.